All right, so what I would like to... Oop, I'm down here kicking stuff. Including... Ooh. 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 Ow! 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 Gotta have a little fun, right? All right, so what I want to do, let's explore some autumnal, festivals that we celebrate in our real world to help give us some ideas about ones that we can make that exist in a fantasy world. And I mean, some of these. Hey, Victor. Good morning to you. No, that unfortunately that's not going to be raffled, Raz. Many that we're already familiar with. For example, Halloween, Hallows Evening, All Hallows Eve, or All Saints Day. As a Oh yeah, there's a lot of Renaissance festivals also that take place. You're absolutely correct, Clandestine. So then I wonder if we're playing back in Renaissance times or medieval times, what kind of would it just be it wouldn't exactly be a medieval fair. It would end up being a what, like a caveman celebration or something. It's spelled correctly, however you pronounce it Samhain. So here we have a celebration which there's a deeper history to it, and we can absolutely talk about it. There's so it'd be a market fair. So this is a festival of dressing up as someone else, trick or treating, warding away spirits, or arguably it's a time of great liminality between our realm and the realm beyond, where the spirits and the fae and all that are more likely to come over into our world. It has definitely become secularized. However, it does have some very old roots. Yes, liminality, Tamric. Pardon. So I mean, I would imagine most of you out there are familiar with Halloween. If not, then we can discuss it. I'm afraid Cinco de Mayo does not take place in autumn, Clandestine. Uh, you know, uh, Carving turnips, pumpkins, gourds, all kinds of what we would consider, or many would consider to be, old pagan traditions and songs, celebrating the dead, Dia de los Muertos, all kinds of stuff, which is, of course, turned into parades and Halloween decorations and things like that, trick-or-treating, guising, mummery, all sorts of games to be played. And by the way, this is what I love and is dangerous about sources like Wikipedia, because you get stuff like this, where you are there's just all kinds of other things that end up popping up alongside what you are searching for that you may never have known existed. You know, here's Samhain. I've never heard of Hop Tuna. It's a Celtic festival celebrated in the Isle of Man on the 31st of October. It's a celebration of traditional Celtic festival of Samhain at the start of winter. It is thought to be the oldest unbroken tradition on the Isle of Man. So it is like Samhain, like Halloween. It's its own thing, though. I'm probably mispronouncing it. Callan Gaof. Let's see. When spirits are abroad, people avoid churchyards, stiles, and crossroads, since spirits are thought to gather there. Day of the Dead. Reformation Day, even. All Saints Day. Mischief Night. And, of course, very special, Derek, if you're still hanging out here, Derek runs a Vampire the Masquerade game set in Detroit. And Detroit has their own special Halloween reputation or local lore. Joe's life, statistically, disadvantage is a -5 to attacks. So, statistically, disadvantage on attacks against you is better than a +2 AC. Statistically. Notice I continually put a caveat there. Yes, Derek has it correct. Devil's Night. So, all kinds of things, lighting bonfires. So this is, this is a celebration of old gods and new gods. In the grand scheme of things, Christianity is it's not a New Age religion, but it's definitely not one of the elders. All kinds of things that have become secularized or still have meaning in a soulful capacity. Then we can click over to Samhain, which is similar, though it has, its own little references and overtones. Oh yeah, arson and on Devil's Night and such, Derek. Yeah, that's some of the fallout. It's not radioactive fallout, but you look at some of the pictures and it certainly seems like you'd find it in a Bethesda game, just full of bugs. Dramatic chord. And hey, see, and I like that twist on it. How would the vampire community celebrate something like that? And of course, well, it's a purge. It's like the one day that they can actually walk around at night and not have to worry as much, or look all disgusting, or pretend to eat people, but they're really eating people. Hey, Refry, welcome. And of course, yeah, does arson burn down a haven? Oh well, it's those darn kids. So we have spiritual liminality celebrations like Samhain and Halloween. We also just have harvest festivals, and all kinds of cultures have celebrated harvest festivals. This is whatever grows around you in your part of the world, you harvest it. And this is a time of bounty before winter sets in, as you have to harvest things to start preserving them or just eat them to build up some winter fat. This is in the Middle East, where we don't traditionally consider, the beautiful oak trees are turning colors, and and the Great Lakes are getting a little choppy, yet there's still bountiful harvest along the Nile. They have harvest festivals as well when it comes time for the days to grow short and their nights to cool even more. Um, By the 16th century, a number of customs seem to have been firmly established around the gathering of the final harvest. They include the reapers accompanying a fully laden cart, a tradition of shouting, hooky, hooky, and one of the foremost reapers dressing extravagantly, acting as lord of the harvest, and asking for money from the onlookers. Year and a half already? Diadems, thank you so much for re-upping 17 months. Oh. One of the reasons I want to hit partner with you all is so I can get that 2-year badge, so that by the time we reach it, y'all who've been subscribing long enough will absolutely receive it on day 1. Yeah, Obone. Obone's in August, and that could still be, it's the end of summer, beginning of, it's not the equinox, but, Obone is also a spiritual festival as well. You're correct, Cybernetic. So, asking for money from onlookers. There's a scene from a play which demonstrates several of these features. There is a character personifying Harvest who comes on stage attended by men dressed as reapers. He refers to himself as their master and ends the scene by begging the audience for a largesse. The scene is clearly inspired by contemporary harvest celebrations, and singing and drinking feature largely. So this is just, a time of cornucopias and baskets, parades, and we see things also that are like homecoming, right? For at least for those of us here in the U.S., where it's like your high school or your colleges, they just started into hand egg, football. And so it's a big home game versus a rival. And sure enough, you have your homecoming dance. There's usually a big bonfire. The community gets together. It's a nice big rally. Schools use it to raise some money. Yes, Oktoberfest is in it's a liquid harvest. But yes, you are correct, Tamrick. So here we have Oktoberfest. A 16 to 18 day folk festival, so it's very cultural. They celebrate, it's the celebration of drink, not necessarily just to get hammered and forget that you exist kind of a thing. This is a cultural celebration, so you can put this into any culture. In ancient Egypt, they had beer, and so it wouldn't obviously be a Germanic Oktoberfest celebration, but if you had a more desert, sort of Egyptian-based country or region in your fantasy world, you can still have something along these lines. Yeah, and we'll get to that in just a second, Cybernetic. And so, people will compete by making different brews, not necessarily the most powerful or the most potent, but flavorful. It's a way to show off their regions, their fertility of their crops. How good was the harvest? How delicious are the grains and the vegetables and everything else that comes from there? As you're drinking liquid bread, you're eating sausages or whatever the animal or vegetable products of the region. Then we go to Saijo Sake Matsuri, and just as Cybernetic Lithid said, instead of beer, we go to what is culturally appropriate. Do you have an Eastern, the old supplement was Oriental Adventures? Do you have an Eastern or some other Oriental styled area in your world? It's Oktoberfest, but culturally they replace it with their own liquid grain. So I think something fun would be something like a drinking festival. something that is a derivative of a harvest festival, but more on this side of things. I think having something like a Samhain Halloween, of course, there's apparently a national peanut festival. And if any of you are in Dothan, Alabama, then this is the harvest season for that too. And so, you know what? The National Peanut Festival would also be a harvest festival, just for a localized crop. Now, if we get over to religious celebrations that are, you know, Halloween started in an old religion, and it was interacted with Christianity. It became secularized. It has its own place, and there are also celebrations that take place in the autumn, which are very mainstream to a modern practiced religion. The Shadowfell have flump festivals on Halloween. So the Shatterkai all wear their bed sheets made up to look like flumps. Yeah, Carnival is in February because you got to get all your meat eating, your partying, your drinking, your chocolate, and your other carnal desires satisfied before Lent. So we have mainstream religious holidays like Diwali here. Symbolizes a spiritual victory of light over darkness, good over evil, and knowledge over ignorance. Light is the metaphor for knowledge and consciousness. During the celebration, temples, homes, shops, and office buildings are brightly illuminated. The preparations and rituals for the festival typically last 5 days, with the climax occurring on the third day, coinciding with the darkest night of the Hindu lunisolar month, Kartika. In the Gregorian calendar, the festival generally falls between mid-October and mid-November. In the lead up to Diwali, celebrants will prepare by cleaning, renovating, and decorating their homes and workplaces. So it has custom, it has dogma. It means something in a currently ongoing situation more than, all right, we carve pumpkins because they're supposed to say hi to spirits. And for some reason, we seem to push that away as being fun, childish, or irreverent. And we look at, Diwali, or if we take a look, Rosh Hashanah is right here. These could absolutely be tied to a Pantheon Tamaric. Let's see, this year, it is, the 1st of October. So, we are, yeah, Bacha says hi. So here, Rosh Hashanah is a 2-day celebration that begins on the first day of Tishrei, which is the 7th month of the ecclesiastical year, in contrast to the ecclesiastical year where the first month is Nisan. The Passover month marks Israel's exodus from Egypt. Rosh Hashanah marks the beginning of the civil year, according to the teachings of Judaism, and is the traditional anniversary of the creation of Adam and Eve, the first man and woman according to the Hebrew Bible, and the inauguration of humanity's role in God's world. According to one secular opinion, the holiday owes its timing to the beginning of the economic year in Southwest Asia and Northeast Africa, marking the start of the agricultural cycle. Rosh Hashanah customs include sounding the shofar, a cleaned-out ram's horn, as prescribed in the Torah, following the prescription of the Hebrew Bible, to raise a noise on Yom Teruah. Its rabbinical customs include attending a synagogue, include attending synagogue services and reciting special liturgy about Teshuvah, as well as enjoying festive meals. Eating symbolic foods is now a tradition, such as apples dipped in honey, hoping to evoke a sweet new year. And you'll find, especially, we also go to Samhain. Samhain is the pagan or Wiccan New Year. The year begins on November 1st. And because it's dead. We've reached this point of cleansing. That's why it's the start of an agricultural year, because it's a fresh start. It's rolled over. All the old crops should have been reaped and harvested. Now everything is going to settle. The snows and the rains and the winds will blow and work their magic on the fallow fields. And then we come into planting, and that's when everything revs up. We reach our height until we come back down to the end of the year here. Oh, Marlboro says that Dothan Peanut celebration, as a key component, is honoring the bull weevil, in which they have a monument in the middle of downtown in the traffic circle. That is, well, so even if it's not there, Marlboro Man, that's still fascinating, and we can work stuff like that into our festivals that we're going to create tonight. You know, to have a giant weevil, or an ear of corn, or mushrooms, or beer, or what have you. We can sound hollowed out ram's horns. Now, I do not know what the Blackpool illuminations are, so let's take a look at it, because Cybernetic Alithid is saying bah humbug. So let's see, the Blackpool Illuminations is an annual lights festival founded in 1879 and first switched on 18 September that year, held each autumn in the British seaside resort of Blackpool on the Fylde coast of Lancashire. Also known locally as the Lights or the Illuminations, they run each year for 66 days, from late August until early November, at a time when most other English seaside resort seasons are coming to an end. Ah, so I see what you're... So it's a tourist thing, right? The cultural... Come see the Disney Laser Light Show or whatever. And so this is a celebration. Well, we have reached the autumnal equinox, and now we're losing light to dark. And you know, this is why we put well, many of us, and I don't want to speak for everyone. This is why many of us put Christmas lights on our house and our trees and everything as part of the symbolism. During the winter solstice, when it is the shortest day, it is the longest, blackest night, that we decorate our houses in order to urge the sun to return to the skies and to give us more warming light, to increase our days and to give us more time. And so this is a way to extend summer. And it's a way to try and keep a little bit more light in our lives as we begin to lose it. Tamrick says we might need to choose the lesser of two weevils. Tamrick. Mr. Wolfie is giving me an it's not quite an oh whoa. Mr. Wolfie, do you have an opinion on the Blackpool Illuminations? We now go live to England. Mr. Wolfie, what is happening at Blackpool? Cybernetic, yep, lots of nationalists get drunk and turn into easy pickpocketing marks. When I lived in the UK, I didn't take security work during the first 3 days of the lights going up. Ah, so, yeah, you didn't want to have to be caught in the middle of such a ruckus. All right, so we have a way to extend the summer, or to light up the night. So this is going to go into lights and bonfires when we're talking about homecoming, parades and such. Great American Beer Festival. All right, well, I mean, that seems... Pardon. That seems, you know, what it is. Thanksgiving could be a harvest festival, though it's not so much about the harvest, but as the results of the harvest. And of course, for any of you in Canada, you all have Thanksgiving a month earlier than we do here in the States. Yeah, it could. Well, I mean, it could turn into a lantern festival. Absolutely. Yeah, or add lanterns. I mean, because what? We have jack-o'-lanterns, which are turnips and gourds and pumpkins galore. But if you want to make it into something more oriental with paper lanterns or something where you're floating them, because we were talking about Obon, which is at the end of August in most places. I think in some it's a July or August, depending on where you're at in Japan. It might be kind of like a Tokyo Kyoto split, or like north south. And so Thanksgiving can be secular. It could be very religious. You know, a day to just stop and give thanks to your deity or deities, to your friends or family, to your neighbors, to just life circumstances, where it's a day of consciousness about who and what we have in our lives. Or, you know, we take our feelings, maybe, you know, because we are getting less light, less vitamin D, you know, sad seasonal affective disorder. Maybe a lot of us might get sick with the flu. And of course, you know, we're just feeling down. It's good to be mindful. And mindfulness is a very Buddhist concept. So, I mean, Thanksgiving could be a mindfulness day, even. If you want to take a look more at the broader who or what are we in the grand cosmic scheme of things, instead of just taking a day to say, you know, thank you. Raz says, Festival of Dancing Lights. Wizards gather to cast the cantrip Dancing Lights to illuminate the black pool, which will only reflect a scrying pool on a day in October that will show what is to come for the town for the next year. Ooh, see, something like that is really cool. So, Raz, hang on to that idea, because I want to get like 4 broad ideas, and then together we'll go through and detail them. But I want to create an NPC that is either the real person, as they exist in D&D, the real person who founded it. I mean, look, we have a reference to Guy Fawkes Day. Remember the 5th of November. Is this a person who did something? Is this more of a mascot? You know, we have Mother Nature, Father Time. We have these humanoid symbols of something that occurs in nature. And so perhaps the NPC we create is an amalgamation of ideas. So we have a lot of Thanksgivings in many different places here, and for different reasons, celebrating different foods and family styles and all of this. Raven, hello! Speaking of working security, huh? Let's see, Allantide. St. Allan's Day, the Feast of St. Allan, is a Cornish festival. It's traditionally celebrated on 31st of October, as well as the following day. And St. Allan, let's see, who is the Bishop of Quimper in the 6th century. And so in Wales, it's known as Hollantide, or is also a part of Halloween itself. Church bells were rung in order to comfort Christian souls in the intermediate state. Another important part of the festival was the giving of Allen apples, large glossy red apples that were highly polished, to family and friends as tokens of good luck. Allen apple markets used to be held throughout West Cornwall in the run-up to the feast. So we're talking about market days also. So market days, apples, of course. You see a lot of apples in the autumn. Here's another reference to a Cornish jack-o'-lantern. This one's made out of a turnip. And the Allantide game made in 2009. All right, so here, we have someone who has, and this is referencing a game. This is probably like, you gotta put your hands behind your back and eat the apple. But there could be traditions like this that we instill, where you hang apples from, chandeliers or the like. All right, Raven. Hey, we're here as much as you want to interact. Yep, Frogman, history creates holidays. Whether it's natural history or, well, for D&D purposes, we'll just say humanoid history. Or even supernatural history, not just natural history. All right, so we have this as a prime. We have this as, these are all sorts of different things that we can think about. These are things that we can incorporate, decorations and the like. So the field has been scattered with ideas and references, and I'll keep this up. But what I would like to do now is we're going to make 4 NPCs. Now, if we want, I'm willing to split between 2 NPCs and 2 villains, even. Because a villain, I mean, we may consider the Grim Reaper, the Avatar of Death, to be a villain, right? Takes people away from us. Death is generally considered bad, even if it is a part of the natural order. Death is a villain to many people, and we could make some kind of an Avatar of Death in that regard. Lith, good evening. Well, yeah, in New Mexico, you hang up bunches of chilies to dry, but that's just a Wednesday. That's every Wednesday, Tamrick. Maybe sometimes on a Thursday, too, depending on how ambitious you are. Ideas and references, most of them flammable. Oh, yeah, because Cybernetic, I saw you said the one overwhelmingly common trait of a festival holiday is something central that a party could completely derail an entire festival with, and that's usually flammable. Yes. Wicker, like Wicker, not votives. What, you make like a person out of wood. Why am I, an effigy. Effigies are, again, we're talking about bonfires and the like. In fact, I don't know when Burning Man takes place. Do any of you know? I don't see it on the on the autumn holidays. But something like Burning Man could even be an autumnal holiday. It's in August. Okay, so it would be like we could call it fall if we really wanted. Okay, thank you for letting me know. So yeah, we could even consider something like a Burning Man festival where people got to the countryside and be as naked, drunk, dancing, singing, whatever as you want in the desert. I mean, don't harm other people. But go out there and, purge yourself, have a great time, be free, be one with spirits, find yourself, find your sexuality, express something, have a giant confessional to the big burning effigy. Go out there and it's a time of where perhaps we're seeking that kind of refreshment, or for everything that's built and grown and become tangled in our lives, we just go out there. Or, you have the naked drum circle in the woods, where just for a week, it's you and other people. You go out to the sweat lodge, or, you fish, but you got to use your hands, stuff like that. There could be a sort of Jungian what's that word? Syzygy of good versus evil as a type of change of season. Two parts of the individual whole. Did you mean schism? Yeah, and so something like that would be like Diwali. No, yeah, Yans, you're fine. Don't worry about it. Welcome to you. Or if it's not Yans, if you'd prefer like Y Yans, let me know how to pronounce your name. No, we're talking about autumn festivals, because we're going to be creating some by creating NPCs first. Oh, more like a yin and yang than a victory of good over evil? Well, they don't really have to be heroes. But I think we can make 2 NPCs and then two villains in some way. That could be the case, Cybernetic. I'm open to ideas. Not everything has to be random, or even if we roll something randomly, we don't have to keep it if we don't wish to. But you know what? Let's see what the autumnal spirits have in store for us. That causes trouble unless you participate. So unless you, it's sort of like what, a Passover where you had to mark your door with lamb's blood, or your firstborn child would be killed. Like a cursed festival. Again, it could be a day of liminality between our world and another one. And if you don't have the right portents on your house, or if you don't spend the night in the town square that's been warded by whatever. And that could even play into the Dancing Lights Festival that was talked about earlier. It could be a celebration of magic, but, to keep the populace calm, it looks like, oh, it's so pretty, fireworks and everything. Meanwhile, you actually have wizards and clerics and all kinds of other people working behind the scenes to create a kind of a force field, a giant, barrier against evil for that night. All right, so we have these ideas, and what I'm going to do real quick, everyone, I'm going to get up and refresh myself, just like a 5-minute break. I'm not going to be gone that long. I'm going to get another drink, and if you got to get up, stretch, do what you need to do, and when we return, let's start our workshop in earnest, and create some NPCs, and see what will occur as we're telling their tale piece by piece.